Hey, everybody, welcome to the Modern Sales Professionals, the Art of Growth, creating a timeless sales playbook for 2025. My name is John Barrows, the CEO of JB Sales here. I've been around for a while. My background, I do sales training, but I work with a lot of cool companies, Salesforce, LinkedIn, Box, all these companies to train their sales organizations and try to help them level up. And quite frankly, I'm more of a sales rep than a trainer. I'm out there selling every day, just like you all are. So we are going to have some fun today with an incredible panel of some incredible people who just have so much knowledge that I am excited to tap into. So let's start with Sam. Sam McKenna, new mom and everything. Welcome to the panel, Sam. How you doing?
Thanks, John. Good. How are you? Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. It's been a while.
Yeah, excited for today.
Yeah, so tell the audience a little bit about your background just to make sure that everybody has a little context here.
Hi, you guys. So I'm Sam McKenna, the CEO of Sam Sales Consulting. If you don't follow me on LinkedIn, come and say hello. I've been in enterprise sales for a very long time. At this point, 15, 16 years, and run an all-women team of nearly 20 that do sales training and create like executive brands on LinkedIn as well.
Love it. Awesome. Amanda, how are you? We have not spent enough time together, Amanda, but I'm looking forward to this conversation because you were doing some really cool. You've done some really cool stuff and you're doing some really cool stuff with a 4-year little hiatus in the middle there. So give the audience a little bit of background to yourself.
Yeah, hi John, and everyone. Amanda Kalo. I am the CEO and founder of OneMind. I was formerly the CEO and co-founder of Sixth Sense. I took 4 years off to have some babies. I said I was permanently on the bench unless something got me as excited as my early days at Sixth Sense, and OneMind did that. We are building superhuman AIs that do everything from inbound, qualify, give the pitch, give the demo, join a Zoom. She can be a ride-along sales engineer, so she can answer the tough questions to jump in and support the sales team, and then all the way through to customer success. She can onboard customers, she can give new product feature release information, answer that one question, or be on a call for 5 hours with your buyers and your customers. So yeah, we're really super excited about the future of AI and bringing a human-like experience to the buying journey.
Absolutely love it. And last but not least, Ernesto, how are you, my friend? It's been a few years since the days of Marketo, then we worked together. How you doing?
Absolutely. Great to see you, John. And the reason for my call, sorry, I was using
I love
from
it.
from your training, but
It's still
always enjoyed it, and that's something I continue to preach today to the sales development teams. Always have a reason for your email. Always have a reason for a call, right? So my name is Ernesto Castillo, obviously, Director of Sales Development at Exactly today. I've worked at companies like Marketo and Adobe in the past, Lean Data and Gem as well. And looking forward to being here with all of you and learning on how we build that timeless sales playbook for 2025, because that's important.
Yes, it is. So, with those intros out of the way, let's get tactical and let's have some cool conversations. And actually, you know what? I'm going to start with Amanda here because as I was prepping for this and looking at what One Mind was all about and what your explanation was right there, it just comes to the question of like, okay, so then what's the point of a sales rep? Right. And I think we're all asking this question right now of AI because it is so good. Like if you've really started to play around with some of this stuff, it is mind numbing what this stuff can do. Research, the voice, the podcast, like sometimes you don't even know who, if it's a person or not. So Amanda, with what you're doing, let's maybe, because as we were prepped for this, you kind of made me feel a little bit better that we're all not headed for total doomsday of no sales reps needed. But with what you do, why is the sales rep still relevant in that part of the equation? In what part of the equation are they still relevant if all your AI bots, for instance, can do that, have a conversation, jump on a Zoom call, qualify, and everything else? So let's start on the end of like the we're not all going to get replaced here and back us up, but I think you're the best person to start that conversation with.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's really important to understand at OneMind, we do believe in the human relationship and we believe in the human experience. I think there is a place, a time and place for everything. You think back to the Stone Age where we moved into the industrial age and we had machines and people weren't carrying bricks on their back anymore. And I look at that as analogous to the dissemination of information. Right now, information sits in the pockets of your sellers, right? So your buyers want information immediately, always on on their time with their kids running and jumping on their lap and not having to worry about the nuance of this relationship. Am I going to offend somebody if I hang up the phone right now? So I think there's a time and a place for everything. And I absolutely believe sellers are still important for building the relationship and having the strategic nature of the account and understanding their pains. But there is an amazing place where sellers don't want to give the same pitch over and over again. And there are places where humans have capacity limitations. So if you think about the buying process and you think about somebody giving their pain, like we talked, in the green room prior here, where we were saying, a buyer is sharing their pains and they're sharing the impact and they're sharing what they need. How often does a seller, and the reason you guys exist, Sam and John, and you're doing all this coaching and helping people, is because sellers are not good at taking that information in the same conversation and using it to match it to how our solution meets that pain. But what if the AI can bridge that gap and supersede the capacity limitations of humans and say, hey, I heard you had this pain. This is exactly how we solve it. And here is somebody else that looks like you who has also solved it in this way. We teach people to do that. And then the human can go back to, okay, let me buy you the Bordeaux. And I don't mean to trivialize it, but build that relationship, build that human connection, but allow the AI to provide the information and remember the past conversations. Like we have all this information in our CRM, but who really goes in and digs through that? I'm on like 10, 11 sales calls a day. I think of myself as a pretty damn good seller, but I do not go in and remember the details of every conversation. But AI doesn't have capacity limitations. She can remember everything. She can be there, bring it in, and help aid the seller to be their best. So imagine if you just know and you have the confidence, that AI, that superhuman is going to be on the call to help me remember, share the right case studies, move the conversation along, and they can focus on the strategy and they can focus on the relationship.
My only takeaway from this is that Amanda's buying us wine. Is that what you guys got from this? The Bordeaux? That was all I heard. Everything else went out the window. I think it's something. It's something interesting too, like especially Ernesto and I think Amanda, certainly now and then while you were at 6 Sense as well, you probably were on 10, 11 sales calls where you were being pitched, let's say a week or a month. You think about them, how many of them all looked the same, right? We ask you the same question. We talk about the weather. We say like, what interested you in taking this call today? It's all generic. And I think that that's part of the issue that we have right now, right? We don't know how to ingest the information that we have and how to translate it to something that makes sense for the buyer. But we have a whole generation of people who are missing a soft skill set, right? How to build rapport, how to do your research in advance, how to connect at a human level, how to say, Amanda, I actually just connected with you on LinkedIn. And I was like, hey, I also posted about my kiddo this week. So just a tiny, tiny human connection that can spark a whole conversation. Small things like that, right? Like our buyers also want to feel like we're here to solve their challenge. And most of them want to cut to the chase. But some of them also appreciate the fact that we see them not just as somebody with wallet share, but as the human beings that they are at the same time.
Yeah, I used to say like at 6 Sense, we used to do these big events for women and we started the CMO Empowered Network. And I remember the first time I ever did that, I remember telling my sellers, we are here to facilitate an amazing experience so that they can connect to other CMOs. We are not here to talk about 6 Sense, right? So it's the same thing. Let the seller be there to build that relationship and create that human connection, and let the AI be the one that sells the product and shares the features, et cetera, right? And bring the information.
Yes.
Go ahead, John.
Go ahead. Oh, go ahead, Sam.
No, well, you go.
Well, I was going to ask, because you brought something up that I'm actually quite concerned with, and I want to go to Ernesto, because I think managing an SDR team right now, what Sam said was, the soft skills, right? The relationship stuff and those type of things. My fear with this, though, is that because AI can do all the grunt work, right? It can do all the research, it can do all the stuff. Quite frankly, that's where I learned how to be a sales professional. All that pain, all that crap that I did of making 50 dials a day and updating CRM and writing my proposal, and all that, like just shit. I didn't like it, but I did it. And so now as a 48, about to be 49-year-old man, like I can jump into a sales conversation. There's tons of context. So I'm able to have a business-oriented conversation and not have to read my script, not have to do any of that. Ernesto, with SDRs, and a lot of that stuff being taken off of their plate with AI, how are you providing the soft skills that Sam's talking about so that they can have those value-oriented conversations. And one more piece of context to this, my fear is AI brings us all this information, right? So it's like, it does the research and then it tells me, all right, I'm going to talk to Ernesto today. And here's like 3 bullet points of things you should say to Ernesto. And he's probably going to object to this. Here's an objection technique that you can use, right? Then 22-year-old kid, gets into a conversation with Ernesto, who's been around the block for a little while. And I ask a seemingly incredible question for you. And you're like, holy shit, like that's actually a really thoughtful question, and you're like, let's get into that. And you dive into this conversation and you realize I'm basically just regurgitating what the AI told me to. And now the question is why not just talk to the fucking AI? So Ernesto, how are you helping? And Amanda, I'm going to come to you, don't worry. But Ernesto, because you're dealing with the SDRs, and
I think both Sam and Amanda are like they want to speak about this as well, right? This is obviously a really big topic for us. But look, it's super important to still maintain that human element, in my opinion, right? We do a lot of soft skill training here, right? So it is about continuing to do role playing and continuing to listen to conversations and be able to help the SDRs help build that rapport with customers. And yeah, you're using AI to get the initial value propositions that you can use or the talking points that you can use, but you still need to be able to build that conversation and build that rapport. A good example of that, right, is we have a tool right now that helps automate our emails as an example. So it will look at all of your social profiles. It will look at anything, John, that you have on the internet, which is a lot, right? And it will create an email for you, specifically to you, that sounds really good. And, it definitely very personalized and relevant to you, but it sounds like AI wrote it, right? That's what it sounds like. So that what I'm teaching and what I'm working with my team on is how do we then take what AI has given us and make it relevant and personal, and not sound like AI, right? So you still need to have that human element, and that's where we enable our folks to be able to use all of that, but still have that human element to be able to interact and build that rapport with your prospects and customers.
You can tell the AI to make mistakes, so she sounds more like a human, right? So you can tone and the voice, so it is more human-like. I'm not suggesting I believe in the whole outbound strategy with AI. I think it will get very spammy, and I think there is a need for a human touch. But you can make it sound. You can get there. Yeah.
Well, let's go on that though. The research. So let's use that perfect example. Like, again, the research into an account, me going on somebody's website, understanding their business, looking at their LinkedIn profile, Sam, and getting into their background and history, like that's business acumen stuff. That helps me learn. Me just getting a pretty pimp ass email put together that's super personalized and all I got to do is tweak it and send it. I don't know if that helps me at all. That might get a better response than me putting a cadence together. But how does it help me as a seller develop my business acumen without just giving me the answer and having me, I just want to make it kind of sound more like me, as opposed to what did I just learn from this?
I mean, John, aren't we moving to a new world though, right? That is the old world. And like, I feel like that's coming from a perspective of, not to you personally, but like fear, where people are afraid to embrace this new way of doing things. There has to be a new way the sellers are going to learn, right? Yes. There has to be a new methodology for learning. We're not going to, when we have machines, we're not going to keep carrying it on our backs because we knew how to do it. There are AI role play tools, like, OneMind can play in that space. We're not going to, but there are a lot of tools that do, but where you can role play and you can learn and you can qualify and you can train a seller in a whole new way that will make them so much better than they were if they you don't want to put them in the battleground with your real customers, right? So that's what we're doing. Like we were throwing them out there to fail in front of real customers and real prospects because we didn't have another way.
So if you're saying what I agree with you, the fundamentals are shifting, right? Mm-hmm. Like everything's shifting right now. We are in a legacy. We're all living in a legacy model right now, and we're all moving to the new one. We just don't know what this new one's really going to look like. So Sam, from your perspective, what do you see as the new fundamentals, if you will, of sales teams? Like if I need to educate my team and AI can do the majority of this other stuff that we used to have to do, what are the new skills or forget about skills, because I think skills are something we can all figure out, but like the core fundamentals. Because my fear right now is we've lost sight of the fundamentals. Since 2010, when money was free and it was a grow at all costs, we've way over engineered the sales process. We've talked to the technique and we've talked to the tech and the process more than we've taught sales skills. And now you're watching all these sales reps who we've effectively turned into robots getting replaced by robots. So
John, I want to give you a couple of drinks and I want to hear what you really think. Because, oh my gosh, the passion you have for this is so great. Here's what I think, right? Like, I think everybody is resistant to change. And I think kind of like Amanda said, right? Like we're afraid of change, and we're also afraid of change because we don't know what to do. I think AI aside, the same can be said for our kind of leaving quantity behind and focusing on quality. When we talk to people all the time about our show me, you know me process of like, you don't need to send out 500 emails to succeed. Like, what if you send out 50? I mean, I think the blood drains from their body because they're like, well, what if I only get, a 6% open rate and a 1% response rate? And we're like, well, you won't, because you're making an effort. So let's teach your reps how to use their brains and make an effort. So what if, right, you could use powerful technology like what Amanda's putting together, and then you could hold your reps accountable to actually prospecting, to becoming full sales cycle reps again, or for the first time, and then coaching them on how to do their research, make a case, write a really great first email. That's not only just to plug everything we basically do at Sam Sales, but it's really just the idea of thinking like, this is how you teach business acumen. We have a whole history of, and again, generation of sellers who worked for companies like 6 Sense, first to market, really great disruptive technology. And what happened? Tons of inbound, right? We worked for Zoom in April, and you're like, anybody who worked for Zoom in April is like, let me teach you how to do it by my playbook. Oh my God, we know why you were successful, because you worked for Zoom in April of 2020, right? When you look at places like that, right, congrats. I don't need to know how you do it. I just need to know how you got that job at the right time. What we want to think about with that though, is when we then take our reps and we say, go prospect, right? Go write a great email. We have to consider that a lot of them were part of this inbound flux and they don't know how to do it. I think we also need to be brave enough to say, hey, even though I've sold for 20, 30 years, even if I worked with John Miller at Marketo back in the day, I don't know how to be successful today. I don't know how to do this one part of my job successfully. There's something new happening here. This isn't my fortes, but you know whose it is? John Barris. We're going to bring him in to teach us how to do this. We need to be brave enough to do this so that we can change and we can evolve. To me, it's quality over quantity. And I think when we send these emails out, as wonderful as they are, right? Like I think AI for outbound is fantastic for learning, ingesting, and then creating our own email. AI for outbound, right, builds this wonderful email. Like we just saw the other day, it was like Taylor Swift heavy. It pulled from stuff on the person's profile, which is great. But here's what happens. Let's say Ernesto posted about this and he's like, Ernesto, I have no idea if you have kids, but let's pretend you have a daughter who is a huge Tay-Tay fan and you went with her. So I send you this email and I write as a PS like, oh my God, we have to talk about the bridge of this particular song. And you're like, yes, this is an amazing email. I have now duped you, deceived you, tricked you. You get on the phone with me and what happens? You're like, let's talk about that bridge. And I'm like, what do you mean? Because, right, we're sailing and bailing our emails, and then buyers get on and they're like, I've been fooled. What does that do for our brand? What does that do for sellers? Jack shit. Yeah. Okay, sorry. I'll curse once. That's my only time.
Well, that's it. And Ernesto, we're going to come to you for a second, but that's exactly what's funny to me, Sam, with like these AI generated comments on LinkedIn. It's like, I see this really like, and I know it's an AI, like I can pick it out over a million times right now. But it's like, I'll see this like really like intriguing, thought-provoking comment and I'll be like, and then I'll look at the kid's profile and I'll be like, you don't talk like that. Like this is not you. Like it's so obvious. So
now at the same time, I'm grateful for it because like help me boost the algorithm and let's get that exposure going. But you see the same 5 people that post all at once and the posts they just say the same thing with different words and you're like, oh my God. Ernesto, over to you.
Well, Ernesto, this is the question I have for you, because it stems from what Sam said, right? The quality over quantity. I think all of us agree that we've been around the block for a while. But I'm a self-funded guy here. I don't have VC backing. I'm not owned by a private equity company like Exactly is. You know what I mean? Like, I'm guessing Vista's not like, oh, Ernesto, just take your time. You know what? Give your reps at least an hour before they have to, of research before they reach out to every company, right? So how are you, without taking the human element out of it and automating it, personalization at scale, which I kind of disagree with in some ways, but because of Sam's point there, it's not the rep, it's the tech. So how are you making the shift or coaching your reps on going quality and keeping Vista at bay to say, look, like, we need to slow down to speed up here?
Yeah. I mean, I could spend an hour on this topic, right? I mean, there's a lot to talk about around there. But so personalization aside, right, and kind of taking that out of the picture, right, it's about how you identify if you're looking for quality, what are the right accounts for you to go after, right? So we teach our tools, and Sam, this goes back to the company that you founded, right, originally, and how we use tools like Sixth Sense to be able to identify buying signals of companies that are ripe to be prospected into, right, and opportunity to jump in to that type of AI and look at predictabilities, right? Also using other tools to be able to prioritize our tasks and prioritize what we're doing and the right messaging for the accounts that we're reaching out to, right? So it's not always about, I want to send 500 emails today. I want to send 50 emails today, but I want to send it to the right accounts. I want to send it to the right personas who are going to move that needle for me and are going to get us in front of the decision makers and economic buyers of these companies, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of that. And look, a lot of that is AI driven, right? If we think about, I'll drop a technology name here, Zoom Info Copilot. That's one that we use internally, right? We use Rhythm on the sales law side to help prioritize our tasks. I use Atrium as a sales coach for my SDRs to be able to coach them on trends that we're seeing on their activity to help them identify where they might be, falling behind in terms of hitting their quotas for the month and all of that. So there's our online bot, right, that does a lot of the initial interaction with the folks that come to our website, when my SDRs then get an opportunity to interact with them as well. So just a lot of stuff out there, but it is about prioritizing and being able to go after the right accounts at the right time to the right people.
And I'll add even another. Oh, go ahead, Amanda.
It's okay. No, I was just going to say, I wanted to bring it a little spicy and say, Ernesto, one of the things that you're talking about when you talk about all these different solutions, I actually feel AI is getting it wrong in so many ways across a lot of the big incumbents, because they don't have a choice, right? So they can use AI to make what they're doing now efficiently and make it better, right? So they can take what they're doing today and make it slightly better. But AI gives us the opportunity to really leapfrog and do things in a whole new way. So like Mike Maples talks about the concept of backcasting. If we think about the big companies who really broke out and made it and created categories like Uber, were we really going to get in a stranger's car? No, F no, right? Was I going to let somebody sleep in my bed for a few dollars? No. But guess what? We all do it, right? We all do it now, right? So when, what we're trying to do at One Mind, this concept is like, I'm not trying to make each place in your sales cycle more efficient or better, even though we are kind of selling those lanes because that's what the market is willing to do right now. We're selling an inbound superhuman. We're selling a sales engineer. But ultimately, it's the full cycle. It's the beginning to the end of the journey that has to change. And we have to shift the dynamic from the control being in the seller's hands to the control being in the buyer's hands. Like what we're talking about all right now is how to make your selling experience better, but it's really about the buyer. At the end of the day, we have to be thinking about what do buyers want and where do they want to engage and where are we falling short for them today. In a B2B sales cycle, I was reading Kerry Cunningham's a post that he had, from 6 Sense the other day about like 18 to 25 touches in a sales cycle. No buyer wants that, but they have to do it because we put them through the hoops. We send them to a website, then they look for their shit that aligns to them. It doesn't make sense. So they finally maybe fill out a form or engage with like a little lurking chat bot in the bottom right-hand corner, which is less than 2%. Then those people felt they get to a junior BDR or SDR that's going to qualify them. Then they get passed to an AE. The AE pitches them, and then they have a technical question, so they need a sales engineer. And then they have a solution question, so they need a solution engineer. And then you need legal. And holy shit, what are we doing to our buyers? Like at the end of the day, paradigm shift has to happen. And AI right now gives us the ability to give the controls back to the buyer and make the experience efficient on their time when they want it, direct answers. I don't have to worry about offending you or hurting your feelings when I say, that doesn't work for me. When they talk to an AI, when they talk to a salesperson, you put on this wall and you never really know. But guess what? When we have our Mindy on our website, I know in those conversations if they're a buyer or not. Like I know right away because they don't hide it. They actually are incredibly transparent, which is great for us as a seller because we can see exactly where our affinity of our buyers are. So, I look at all these solutions and people as you're moving into 2025 or 2026 planning. Yes, we can make efficiency gains, but I challenge people to make a big bet. Try something new that will really drastically change for your buyer and not for you, the seller.
So
I agree with that, Amanda. Look, the reality here is the buyers are making they're doing their research way before they're coming to your website, right? It's like buying a car, right? You don't go and you buy a car, you know what you're going to buy. You want to go test drive it and go buy it and then do the financing and be done with it, right? So it's the same concept, right? One thing that I always preach to my team is about that buyer experience, that customer experience. So from the minute they come to your website and how you interact with them, how you take that initial first call and what you do in terms of the handover to the AE and all of that, that's got to be crisp. It's got to be clean, or else you're going to lose these guys immediately.
Yeah, and you don't have the AI. The superhuman is an option. I always say it's an option for your buyer, but they can go through that long, arduous process to get a human on the line. Great. Fill out the form, talk to a human, go through the old school way, or get your answers right now, immediately. I'll give you a really quick case study that we have of ourselves. So we turned on Mindy on our website. I'm in a really deep sales cycle with a very large CRM company right now. They're moving forward with 3 use cases with us, like one of the top 2. So I'm not going to say who they are, but they are very far along of the process. We're in procurement, legal, waiting for things to get. Every time I get on a call, there's like 17 new people that are learning about that they're about to use OneMind. There was a woman named Pamela who learned that she needed to put this on her website. And she was like, So she goes to our website. She talks to Mindy, our superhuman, and Mindy answers all of her questions. I get on the call with her 2 hours later, and I was like, oh, Pamela, I saw you talk to Mindy. And she's like, you know what, Amanda, I'm being honest. I was a total no. I was like, not having this. We're not putting this on our website. And I was like, well, do you have questions for me? And she's like, no, because she answered all of them. And she's like, now I'm converted, right? So she got on that call, and I have it on video. We're going to make a case study out of it. She's getting approvals. But basically, she was a total no, but she got to have control of her questions. She asked the API questions, how we integrate, how we work with a company like 6 Sense or Zoom Info. And she was asking all the things she needed to know. How can we throttle traffic, bring it up and back? And Mindy was I looked at her answer. She was crushing it, much better than what I could have done. Anyway, so I went on a tangent, but.
No, I think it's spot on, Amanda. But I think the challenge that I always find is just like I live in SaaS. Most of us live in the SaaS world, right? And it's like, oh my God. And for me, I'm like, I gotta keep innovating because I'm getting old, right? And I realize when I get out of SaaS, like if we take one step out of SaaS, it's like sales 1985 all over again. And the problem is that what you said there, Amanda, which is put control in the seller's hands and revamp it to the selling process, the buying process. I'm sorry, put it in the buyer's hands and revamping the buying give them the control and take it. And I agree with you. I think the predictable revenue model was an absolute train wreck from a customer standpoint, because nobody likes to be handed off 15 times before they talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about. The challenge with that, Amanda, is I think there's a lot of people who are probably listening to this, investors included, who are saying, are you out of mind that we're going to take control away from the sales rep and put it all in the buyer's hands. So how do you, as a sales rep or organization, maintain control of the process, but not necessarily, and manage the process, but not necessarily, but still give the controls to the buyer? How do you do that?
Well, first, my favorite question that people ask me all the time is, will your superhuman hallucinate? And my response is very simple. Do your reps hallucinate? And how often, right? Like, so the likelihood that she will hallucinate, and of course, there are ways, like if folks who aren't up on how all this AI stuff work, you can put her on a tight string where she does not go off topic and does like 99.9%, she's not going to hallucinate, right? So she can be on a like tight guardrail so she doesn't. But to your point about giving the control and putting the process back in place, that's exactly what the seller should do. The human still needs to do. They need to own the end-to-end, what's happening across the relationship, not about disseminating the information at every step of the way. Let the superhuman AI do that so that they can control the entire end-to-end process and really focus on the relationship and focus on what they need to move who else do I need to get in this organization? That said, the superhuman does ask that, but she may not be as good at it as a human saying, okay, who else I need to be talking to? Where are we? What are your blockers? What do you really think? Like, let the human do those human things and let the superhuman do the things that are, 9 out of 10 of the tasks can be done by the AI. And then the human can really focus on the final mile. But eventually we're going to get to AI, AGI, and then, and we're getting close.
Well,
we're
look,
about
we can all get stoned. Yeah, we can all get stoned and start talking about the Matrix and how the world is basically. But let's try to stay here and not freak too many people out. But Sam, you had mentioned something, because I will have that conversation with you, by the way. Sam, talk to me. You said when we were prepping for this, you said there's so many things wrong right now, and how, in order to get to what I think we all agree with Amanda, which is the augmentation, using AI to augment the human. We got to fix some stuff here first. Sorry, where some of the fundamentals and the core pieces. So for this, in the range of like planning for 2025, okay, what do we need to do right now to put ourselves in a position to best leverage all this new cool stuff and revamp the whole buying and selling process? What are the things that teams need to do right now, assuming, and this is a massive assumption, that we have the right players on the bus? Right, we have the right team in place. We've cut the fat. We're down to the core. We got our SDRs. We got our AEs. There's a nice little model here. What's wrong that we need to fix so that we can leverage all that awesome stuff? And then Ernesto, I want to come to you and talk about like how this transition is coming. But Sam, could you give us a sense of what's broken and what needs to focus on right now?
I'm confident in saying that there's not a single organization that really has their act together when it comes to the core foundations of what we do every single day as a sales team. And that's around prospecting, the emails that we do from an outbound perspective, and our discovery calls. This is part of our core focus as a business. And we've read hundreds of emails, listened to hundreds of discovery calls, and we know it's broken. So when we think about what we need to do to fix things, I think there is a trepidation, nervousness of what do we fix first, right? Because there are so many things we need to do. This team needs to learn how to multi-thread, where 50% of our deals are stuck at 50% over here. What do we fix first, right? And to me, almost everything comes back to the foundations. Are we going after the right people? Do we know how to do that? Are we able to stand out from the noise of their inbox when we're doing outbound? Do we have the right content in the emails that we send? More often not. And then when we do get that first date, that discovery call, are we making sure that we do it effectively? We're getting a true buyer pain. We're able to build rapport and just have a human conversation. So I'll break a few of those down really quickly. Prospecting. Everybody on this call has had access to or has access to the most powerful prospecting tool I believe you have. And I'm not super biased here, but I am because I used to work there, but LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It is also the platform, John, I know you love it as well, that everybody has and nobody knows how to use. Absolutely. Nobody knows how to, raise your hand if you know how to use Sales Navigator. Okay, John and I, cool. So what I think about this though, is that if you just think about some of these very, very common plays with Sales Nav and start to teach your reps how to prospect effectively, the lowest hanging fruit of lowest hanging fruit is out there. Shameless plug, go to our website and pick up our 45-page prospecting playbook and learn how to do it yourself. B, just look at some things. Who used to work for our company and now works for my territory? Who do my executives executives know, who just came in as an employee at our company, right, and has connections. One of my smartest reps used to reach out to the woman that came to LinkedIn, was given a $9 million bonus, as we all are when we take these new jobs, to lead the acquisition. Well, actually, at Microsoft, lead the acquisition of LinkedIn. But he used to reach out to her all the time, being like, hello, me again. You know this really important person and they're not going to say no to you. Can you introduce us? Right? Just like really smart, easy, obvious stuff like that. To the email that goes out. Now, I could talk about the subject line and everything for a million years, but you have to think, maybe your open rates are great and your reply rates suck. And I can tell you why. It's because the content of your emails is terrible. Number one, let's say you're reaching out to Sam and you're like, guess what? Guess what we do over at Marketo? Guess what we do over at Microsoft? Cool. I don't have those budgets. So tell me what you do with these. Tell me what you do with John Barrows, because I am also self-funded. So if he works with you, maybe I can as well. Plus, the email in there says what we do, not the challenge we solve. And it's the same crap. We help leading companies do this. We can get you 60, 900 million, jibajillion percentage ROI. Don't tell me that. Tell me what you do, right? Tell me the challenge you solve and how you can specifically solve it. I think the other thing is we gave all these people tech stacks like Apollo, SalesLoft, Outreach, all of this stuff, and absolutely no training on how to write sequences and cadences. So what do we all have? Thousands, tens of thousands, right? We're talking to an organization to help them that has 500 global BDRs and tens of thousands of sequences in their system. I can't even imagine. Talk to us and we'll train you on how to write this really easily.
Burn it down and start from scratch.
Do you think those tools are going to survive? Do you think incumbents?
Say that again.
Do you think these big incumbent tools are going to survive in this new era?
I don't know. I think, you know what, to John's point though, like you talk, people get really tied up around like what technologies they're supposed to do now, right? So, okay, I use this and then it goes to common room and then I use Clay and then I go here and then I pop here. Oh my God. I call up a C-suite at DuPont and ask that C-suite, hey, do you know what Gong is? And he's going to be like, you mean the thing that we hit when we win a bell, when we win a deal? There are hundreds of companies who have no idea that any of us even exist, right? So like, don't panic. I think there's going to be stability, even if it's just the blue chip companies that like just turn the light on that Outreach is a platform or SalesLoft is a platform. Final thing, discovery call. Like how many discovery calls do our reps have from our BDRs to our AEs every single week, right? Imagine your goal was to get married and nobody taught you how to have a first date. Imagine if you showed up to that first date and you were like, Ernesto, hi, thanks. What interested you in taking this date with me? Oh, you're looking for a wife? Amazing. Let me tell you about myself for 28 minutes. What in the absolute hell are we thinking? That is what happens. And then I'm like, would you like to have a second date? And you're like, I mean, I guess, are you buying this time? Sure. And then I go on the second date and I've completely wasted my time because I know absolutely nothing about Ernesto, his pains, his challenges, if he's even a right fit for me. Sorry, now Ernesto and I, much to the chagrin of our spouses, are in a whole relationship. Thank you, MSP. Anyway,
as long as you're paying, Sam, that's okay.
Well, happy to pick up the top.
And I love all that, Sam. And Ernesto, I wanted to talk to you. Like, what are you seeing? So going back to like, what do we need to fix? And what do we need to train on with the fundamentals now compared to what have you changed? I actually didn't know. How long have you been at it exactly now?
About a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
What have you seen as some of the major shifts in onboarding that have made a real difference for you? Right? Whereas like you used to do it this way, but because of this shift and what you're seeing out there, we've done this, and it's seeing a much better either ramp or reps doing business, like to hit some of those fundamentals that Sam was talking about. What are some of the things you've done to really make a difference in onboarding as it relates to this?
Absolutely. I think that's a great question. So number one, I'll give a shameless plug to my onboarding team. Here, we have a great global sales productivity team. They do an absolute awesome job in getting both SDRs, AEs, and anybody else in the organization up and running on exactly and everything pretty quickly. Which is great. But, as a leader, an SDR leader in this organization, it is about how we incorporate all of the newer technologies and everything that is out there, right, to help the team be more productive, right? And so, I'm doubling down on Orem as an example, as a dialing technology, right? We dig in a lot in terms of what we're doing with that parallel dial dialer, right? And doing a ton of role playing around that as well. We're actually looking at some technology right now. We talked about this earlier in this conversation around role playing and bots that are out there to help you with that, right? So that's a big shift for us in really helping to get our reps ready on the phones and talking productively about the value of what exactly brings to organizations, right? So that's a big one. It is about, you know, how we incorporate all of the learnings from all of the tools that I mentioned earlier about account insights and buying signals, and, you know, really looking at the quality of the stuff that we're sending out. Not quantity, but it is about, you know, really digging in and personalizing with relevant personalization to the right people in the organization. So I think, you know, when we think about onboarding, that's really where we focus our efforts on initially with the SDR and the sales team as well. On top, of course, learning about what exactly does in the product and how we automate all of your commissions and forecasting and all of that. It is about, you know, really getting them hyper focused on how they communicate with our personas.
Love it.
Can I ask you a question, Ernesto?
Of course.
Okay.
Please.
Ernesto, if you would you ever consider putting a sales engineer on your outbound calls?
A sales engineer on my outbound calls, like,
sounds crazy, right?
Right, absolutely. I mean, they've got obviously, you know, our sales engineers are already pressed for time.
Cost of sale goes through the roof on that one.
Right, but imagine
it'd be an interesting concept for sure.
Yeah. So, but imagine if I told you it cost $1, and you could have the best sales engineer, solutions engineer that could bring up the case study that's relevant to who they're talking to, but allows your seller to still do their job and be there to support them.
Is this a Mindy person you keep talking about?
But that's the future, right? So those people, instead of role playing with them, give them the in conversation help. So our whole like thesis is buying and selling happens in the conversation. So imagine if you could like really support them and make them their best selves by giving them this resource that's just there to answer questions, show the right case study, bring up the slides, bring up the video, do the thing, and let the seller do the selling.
Yeah,
I love that idea. I'd like to meet her. I didn't mean to
pitch right there.
Maybe take her out on a date too.
You can take her out on a date. Well,
yeah, what's that movie? Her, right? Her, where you just
I'm not paying for her. I'm not paying for her. Okay.
I showed a clip of her at a conference that I spoke at recently, and people told me it was creepy. And I was like, I was just trying to say we can create relationships with our AI. Like we actually can connect.
And I think we're going to finish on this a little future kind of conversation, because I do think there's a generational component to this as well. And this is where I think right now we can focus on this augmentation for the next few years here, because I do honestly think that the best sales reps, again, you probably all have the same tagline I do. We're not going to get replaced by AI. We're going to get replaced by sales reps who learn how to use AI, right? That's the function there. You don't even think so, Amanda? You don't?
No, I actually think we will be replacing a lot of the sales team, if I'm being honest.
Okay, so this is where I'm going. This is where I'm going, because I think we're in an 80-20 rule right now. I think it's Pareto's rule, where 20% of the sales population is going to learn how to use this stuff and be absolutely undeniably valuable for both the client and the customer and the company. But the other 80%, the ones who are going through the motions, the ones who are pushing buttons, asking dumbass BANT questions, droning through piece of shit demos, and just, you know, and offering massive discounts, they're going to get smoked. My fear is that's the vast majority of the sales population. So help me understand, like, because I don't care. I'm taking the filter off at this point, because now I'm back on my own. I can say what I want to say. Like, if you don't level up right now, you're dead. Like, you're done. You might as well look for another job, right? Because it is so evident to me that the power and the tools here. And so if you're sitting there as somebody who wants to look at sales as a profession, right, as the career that you want to continue with, and not just let me try this out because my university degree that I got is dog shit and I can't make any money doing it, so let me try sales. So what is that? If that's reps listening to this going, this all sounds good, but I feel like I am going to get replaced. What do they need? Let's forget about the company here for a minute. Let's try to future-proof the sales rep here and say, for 2025, if you were a sales rep, middle of the road, trying to look at this and going, I want to be in sales, but I'm looking at all this stuff saying, man, that shit does it better than me already. What do I need to be focusing on right now? Amanda.
Oh, that was for me.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay. Well, it's hard. It's hard. I think we're in a new transition. I would be lying if I said that I don't think I want, there's a part of me that there's a human element too. Like I have a heart. I do. But I do think the world is going through a big transition, and I don't know. I think very strategic selling, I think will be around for a while. Enterprise selling, those roles will be here. They absolutely have to level up their game, but there will be fewer roles, like you said, like the good, I'm talking to very large company of an HR company, and they said, like same thing, 20% will stay, the other 80% are not going to be here anymore. But I think it's on the executives of the company. It's not on the individuals to give them the tools to be successful. So I think using, going to ChatGPT and like writing a better email, whatever, it's like, there are more things that you can do to like bring these things together and help their workflow and help them be their best. And it's on their managers and it's on the company to do that, not on them. But like my neighbor across the street, he was a data scientist and he's like, I can't get a job. And I was like, why don't you talk to my Gen AI team? And guess what? A week later, 2 weeks, I don't know how long it was, but we hired him, so we brought him on and now he's writing prompts for us and he's loving it, so it's like you have to kind of shift, like go into look at the tools that you can do and learn how to build those. What if Sam is training AI superhumans, right? Instead of training people, right? For exponential growth, right? There's a new way, like you can apply those skills to a new way in a new world. But I want to pretend I think it's going to be completely rosy and there's an easy path.
And that's why I wish more people would have that honest opinion, because to me, it's very evident. And Sam, what are your thoughts on this one? I think we're in agreement that this is moving in that direction. But Sam, what do you tell sales reps right now of how they personally need to level up and stop doing the old school and start doing the new school without knowing really what the new school is?
I think it really goes back to the idea of like the best reps are going to be the ones that do the things, the hard work, the things that others aren't willing to do. So we don't even need to think about the future and convincing them. You just need to look backwards and say, who are the people that are always going to club on your teams? Who are the people that are always hitting their quota, in like September instead of December? They're doing all of the things that maybe you aren't willing to do. So either you want to, or you will be replaced by AI, right? There is a cost benefit at the end of the day. And I think there are some super sellers out there who can connect with buyers, who can translate things, who have business acumen, who can be really strategic. I think there's always going to be a space for that. For the rest, SMB, maybe not so much. Upper commercial, maybe not so much. I don't quite know the prediction there, but I will say that you've got to prove your value as a human being of the things that you do that AI, maybe or automation can't at this point, not only to just keep your job, but continue to accelerate and be promoted. Stagnation to me is, a death sentence. Like I always want to keep learning. I'll panic about, all the things that people talk about now that I still don't know about. And I'm like, oh crap, I need to learn to stay up. But I mean, same thing with sales reps. And I agree with you, John, though, the ones that are embracing AI, using it to skill up, using it to increase their efficiency in terms of how they're learning about our businesses are the ones that are going to be at the head of the pack.
Yeah, love that. Last but not least, Ernesto, because we got to wrap this up, but talk to us about how you're keeping your team from freaking out about like especially on the SDRs, right? Like, oh, I'm about to go down to Bryant University that's on Saturday and teach these, and do some sales training for these kids who are getting sales degrees, right? Yeah. And part of me, Amanda, is like, I don't want to be like the scare the shit out of you, but like you're walking into this like, oh my God, you don't know what's going to happen to you. You're going to get punched right in the mouth here. So if I'm an SDR, Ernesto, I'm sweating. You know what I mean? I am sweating, because if we would have, seriously, if we were to look at the whole sales process here, if you look at where AI is probably going to, and is having the biggest impact is on the front end of the funnel, the research, the personalization, the account-based selling, if you will, of marketing and all that other stuff. So what do you like? A, what are you telling your team right now? B, how are you putting them in a position to survive?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, John. All right. And I see it every day. And I think, the reality is my team sees it every day as well, and everything that they're doing. They understand that there's still a human element that is needed, right? They appreciate the fact that we have a tool that can help them personalize an email, as an example, or work with them in terms of identifying which accounts are the right accounts to go after, right? But that's not the end of the picture there, right? They still need to be able to take that personalization and then make it relevant to that particular persona, right? So they know that there's still a human element that is needed there. If someone is coming to my website and someone is doing interacting with something on our website and our chatbot is interacting with them, that only goes so far, right? It's still somebody requests to talk to a live human, that goes to my SDR team, right? They are manning the floor there, so they understand that there's still that element out there, right? So I don't think anybody's too worried about being replaced right now, but it is about, and this is what I tell them every day, similar to what we were talking about, is it's about learning how to work with AI and working with these technologies. That's not only going to help you today as an SDR, but as you grow in your sales career and as you get to that next level. Because guess what? Those enterprise sellers that have been doing it for 15 to 20 years, they don't know how to do any of this stuff. Right?
They don't, yeah.
Our sales stuff.
Let's finish up with one quick rapid fire, like nugget tipped, super tactical thing that anybody on this can walk away with right now to put them in a better position. So Ernesto, let's stay with you. Any super tactical thing that you could say, like, just do this, right? And can be as simple as you can imagine.
It goes back to the old multi-channel, multi-touch approach, right? Don't think that emails are the end all, right? Or calls are the end all, or LinkedIn connections and social interaction is the end of it. It's about all of it put together and continuous, consistent, and persistent follow-up from an SDR perspective. Keep that mindset. Eventually, you're going to get those meetings. You're going to get people who want to talk to you when the timing is right. So it's old school thinking, but it doesn't matter if you're using old school or new school technology. The strategy is the same.
I love it. Awesome. Sam, what do you think? Tactical thing that people can do today coming out of this that makes a difference?
Go and find your buyers on LinkedIn and go and vet a list of the people that are actually posting content. Here's what happens for your buyers, especially at the executive level. They get tons of likes and they get very few comments. I was just on Amanda's page and looking at somebody like Amanda, who many of you probably try to target, especially at 6 Sense. And definitely now if you have founder money, tell us how you can spend it with us. If you go and look at her content, she gets tons of likes and very few comments. It is so typical of an executive because people are like, great work, and they're terrified to talk to you. So go and be a part of the conversation. Get in there, comment on her podcast, go and say what she's saying. It's so easy. There's no competition.
Love it. Awesome. Amanda, talk to me about, besides replacing everybody here.
I'm not going to tell you to go to OneMind and talk to the superhuman, but you can. But my tactical, I would say both at an organizational level and a human level, everyone needs to get out of the fear-based mindset. So a lot of this conversation was even around the fear-based. We're afraid of what it's going to do. Yeah. And you can either in life embrace things with love or we can embrace things with fear. And if you choose to go down the path of like love and an open heart, I like to say in everything I do, yes, I'm bringing the concept of love into work, then you will find the openings that work for you and find the next best path instead of rejecting it. Those of you that reject this are the ones going to have the hardest time. 100%. And there is another place for people. There are amazing jobs. Oh my God, AI is creating a ton of jobs. Like unbelievable. I mean, if you want to be a prompt engineer, come talk to us. Like learn how to train the superhumans to be the best, right? Like that is a super fun job too. It's creative, it's scientific, it's all the things. So yeah, I would say just like shift your mindset.
I love it. And I think that's mine. Mine is a little bit twofold. One is, if you're not in the AI game, get in the fucking AI game. In the easiest way I tell people to do this is go to perplexity.ai, okay? Because it's the simplest one in my opinion, and stop Googling and just start using Perplexity. That's it. Like, because once you start to see the power, like once you just start asking it questions and engaging with it, you'll see what it can do. My other recommendation real quick from a tip standpoint is, out reps, SDRs, everybody, go to networking events, in-person, live networking events, because that's where you will literally see and feel what your piece of shit pitch sounds like when you tell it to somebody who doesn't care. You will literally feel their body recoil. You will see them look here instead of here, and you will realize that is happening to you on the phone, that is happening to you on LinkedIn. So get in front of people and understand body language, understand how to communicate as a human, because we are too stuck in this world, and this is not real world. So that is my tip. And thank you all very much.
As we're on a virtual.
Yeah. And that, look, everybody, thank you so much for this conversation. I really enjoyed it. Everybody who's listening, hopefully you got some value out of this. And please go visit all the websites of all the different people on this show here so you can see what they're doing. Sam's doing some fantastic stuff on LinkedIn and her training as well. Ernesto's killing it with Exactly, and they got an awesome product there for commissions. And Amanda, sounds like you're working on some really cool stuff that I'm going to have to check out myself here. So thank you all very much. And
Thanks, John.
make it happen.
Thank you, everybody.